All right, now we're going to cover our first lean topics. We adopted some of the lean materials into Lean Six Sigma. A little bit of combination of some of the DMAIC tools together with lean tools. And specifically in this section, we're going to cover the what we call the 7 elements of waste and also workplace organization or the 5S tools. All right, so in the body of knowledge, we're going to cover just a little bit of what is lean, a little history, the combination of lean and Six Sigma. Again, the tools for the 7 elements of waste and 5S. Some definitions. I had the privilege of working with the author here, Barbara Wheat, when we did some consulting for Navistar International, their truck plants. And we, Barbara was our lean expert. We were the Six Sigma experts. And we figured out how to marry the two disciplines together. And it's sort of a natural fit. So when we look at the lean enterprise, the focus is that, hey, anywhere that there's work being done, there's waste being generated. And if we focus relentlessly on the elimination of waste, then uh, everything will get better. Just a natural fit to Six Sigma, focusing on defects. And then when we look at lean and getting the flow and get rid of the waste, uh, all kinds of good things can happen. So we're going to show you how we kind of incorporate some of the simpler lean concepts together into the DMAIC process as we work our projects. All right, so here we have a little historical timeline for lean, and it's typically tied to the automotive industry since it came from Toyota, right? And the idea of the Toyota production system, the machine that changed the world was a famous book that we used at Motorola in the day in order to incorporate the lean concepts into the Six Sigma methodology as well. So starts back right before pre-Henry Ford. Everything was made by skilled craftsmen. Really, everything was sort of a unique one-off masterpiece. So all the parts were cut and machined by hand, welded together, hand stitched. So even though there might have been a particular model or type that you could buy, if you went from one vehicle to another, there would be some differences because they were all built, pretty much from the ground up. Then old Henry shows up on the scene and says, "Hey, I think I can make this really cheap, and I can build a lot of them with less skilled labor if I break up the units of production with a moving production line, and I make standard parts where every time I grab this part at this station, it's the same, and then I might change out the parts uh, later on when things need to get fixed." So that was his contribution. The big rub was, you could get any car that you wanted as long as it was a Model T and it was black. We experimented with some things along the line, but the next big innovation, at least from a lean perspective, was after World War II. Toyota was trying to bring back manufacturing to Japan, and they really had to overcome obstacles. They didn't have a lot of raw materials, and so they were just insanely focused on waste. We can't waste any of the materials that we're able to get our hands on. So everything has to be high quality, We can't have a lot of inventory, so they came up with the whole idea of the just-in-time manufacturing and really put some of the principles we're going to talk about in this section to work. Right, things took a while to get over to the U.S., so I was introduced right to the lean concepts at Motorola. We were, read the machine that changed the world, but that was probably 1991, 92. And then it really started to take hold, and different companies, Danaher was one of the benchmarks in terms of, hey, they really grabbed it, held on to it, still use it to this day. But we can now apply lean not just to, right, the Toyota production system. My second application was to the aerospace satellite industry. We actually built satellites on a car kind of production line. Totally shook up the folks that we were working with at the time, but we just gave them a book, said this is how we're going to build it, and we went off and we actually did it. So we now apply lean concepts not just to the auto industry, but to both manufacturing and transactional processes. So we're going to take the ingredients of both disciplines, mix them all up in a bowl, and right come up with, right as we say at the bottom, an extremely powerful combination of tools. So on the lead side, right, based on the right Toyota operating system, that we want to get waste out of the system, relentless elimination of waste. Flow, and we're going to talk more about that as we go through. But it's all about creating flow and getting rid of the roadblocks that stop flow in the process, right? We want to continue to add value as we go from step to step in our process. So the big strength here, right, is efficiency. On the Six Sigma side, right, we're focused on our three voices: voice of the customer, voice of the business, voice of the employee. uh, Data-based decision making, getting rid of variation, so variation waste, nice parallel there. We've got some right analytical and statistical rigor, so again, that data-based decision making, and so our processes become very effective. So hey, that's a nice combination. We're efficient and effective, and that's why the tool sets work so nicely together. So now we're going to get into the elements of waste. So when we look at the lean side of your project, we're gonna search for waste. So anything other than the minimum amount of time, material, right, people, resources, space, right, energy to add value to the product or service, right, as we go step by step through the process. The Japanese word for waste is Muda, so sometimes you'll see, right, the 7 elements of Muda. Sometimes you'll see the Japanese words. We've got them on one of the slides coming up. But the idea is that waste is the enemy, just like variation is the enemy, and we are going to be relentless and go after it. All right, so we say that we have to be able to see the waste, and believe me, you'll be able to see the waste in all your processes right after you've done a project or two, and we start to focus on where is the waste and how can we get rid of it. Right, so just what are these 7 elements of waste, components of waste? Waste or Muda. These are the 7 that will go into some detail. So overproduction, correction or defects, rework, inventory or work in process, motion. So here we talk about it within the step. Overprocessing, doing more than the customer wants or needs. Conveyance, moving things between steps. And then waiting, which is usually a bad result of some of the other wastes. Some add in a couple of additional wastes, so the underutilization of your people, So if they're waiting, they're not utilized to do good work. And then the addition of safety. So if we're not being safe in the workplace, then it doesn't really matter where our wastes are coming from. In your notes in the notes page, we include a couple of mnemonics, and so spell that a few times. One is Timwood, the other is Comwhip, and you can see how we just rearrange the elements here to come up with that. Hey, how do I remember the 7 elements? Well, you can either use either of those, and there's probably a dozen others to try to remember these 7 concepts. But let's look at them in some detail. All right, let's start off at the top. Overproduction. Overproduction means producing more than the next step needs, or the customer can buy in any time period. So we're just shoving stuff into the production environment, whether we need it or not. So we're kind of operating by schedule versus operating by demand. And boy, I've seen all of these in projects over my career. Extra reports. Uh, hey, we send out the report, but nobody seems to do anything with it. Multiple copies of data. So, what is the single source of the truth? I didn't know what it was until I heard this whole term of the golden data, or the keepers of the master data. That's the term, the master data, and whole teams of people that keep the data cleansed. Over ordering of materials, duplicate efforts or reports. And I'll just give you one example. There's so many, but I was working with one of the furniture companies in the west side of Michigan, and they had a consultant come in, kind of they had us come in to do Lean and Six Sigma, and it was a Japanese company, and they made the equipment that cut out the laminate for your desks and your cabinets and your front of your drawers. So it was all cut from the same sheet, and so they came in and they had an optimization program that would cut out the most parts for a sheet of laminate, so you didn't have much waste. That sounds great, right? We're eliminating waste. Well, as you looked down the production line through the plant, there were just stacks and stacks and stacks of these little circular tables that just happened to get thrown into the mix all the time because it didn't waste the laminate. And so we started to look at what was the demand for that particular little tabletop, and they had about 5 years worth of production readiness for that. So although they tried to do Lean in one hand, they were doing really bad things in the realm of overproduction. So we don't want to produce more than we can use at the next step. Well, I think correction is one of the more obvious wastes. At least we hope that it is. But when I create defects, I got to do something with them, right? I've got to fix them. I've got to sort them. So examples, I mess up that master data by putting some bad data into the mix. Something, scrap or rework goes in. I've got to sort or contain or somehow redo some steps to make the defect go away. So anything where I'm fixing defects is a waste of correction. All right, so another Muda or waste, inventory. Well, how much inventory does it take to keep things running? So a lot of times we talk about the sea of inventory that makes up for the wastes in all of the other steps. So if I have lots of inventory between stations, well, the stations can't go idle because there's always something there uh, to build because I've got this inventory uh, built up to hide all of my errors. All right. So anything that is sitting around not being processed is a waste of inventory. Another good example that kind of goes with overproduction. When I worked with Audit spark plugs over in Ohio, we were talking about just consistency of input material. And they said, well, we buy all of our aluminum oxide by the trainload, and we just get one big dump per year. And I said, well, that's good and bad, right? That you have what you have. If it's a good lot, you can go for a whole year producing spark plugs without any issues. If you have a bad lot, though, well, you're stuck with that material for a whole year of production. And hey, that's inventory, right? You've sunk the cost of that raw material, and then it takes you a whole year to work it off. So inventory, we want to just go walk down the production line and say, right, how many pieces can I count up, and is that the minimum amount I need to keep production running? So the waste of motion. So typically we talk about two sort of movement waste. So this is the one that kind of happens within a step. So all the movements that you make as a person doing the task, right? The equipment makes, and we'll talk about how this ties in nicely with the 5S strategy we're going to talk about right next in this section. But how many times do I have to stop and go look for something? I need to find a tool, data entry steps. So in the transactional world, I always say, how many mouse clicks does it take to get to the information that you need? Another crazy one that I've seen is dual monitors where somebody's taking information from one system and putting it, hand jamming it into another system. And that was the best method that they could come up with because the two systems weren't compatible to just move the data over. So any motion that happens within a step, if you go to some of your like a computer manufacturer, I know Dell, and uh, they're really good at this. Right, if you look at how somebody packs a computer box, everything's at waste level, and you barely have to turn it all in order to stuff the box. Everything's right there for you to grab the box. The packing materials, the part, it's all right there. So they do a whole bunch of time and motion studies to figure out how to make it ergonomically correct and the minimum amount of time in order to do that particular step. So just think of that when we think about motion. Uh, what's sort of the internal motion of the step, and is there a lot of wasted uh, time looking for things, doing extra data entry, extra mouse clicks, etc. All right, our next in our 7 elements of waste, overprocessing. So overprocessing, any task or activity does not add value. So if you think about making an invoice of the tasks that you do, and you're going to charge your customer line item by line item, would you feel good about putting that task on your invoice? All right. So some common overprocessing, too many sign-offs. We're asking for approvals at the wrong levels, at too many levels. I can't tell you the number of projects I've done where we've been able to cut down the number of signatures from 7 to none, that the people didn't really need to look at the activities if they were under certain dollar thresholds or within certain boundaries. Communications that go on and on and on. So we always talk about bottom line up front. How do I make my communication short, sweet, to the point, without a whole bunch of extra information? Because again, time is money. We don't want people to have to weed out and find the information that they need. And then one of my favorites, it's kind of silly, right? We have voicemails that are too long, but the good old reply to all, right? Especially when you have senior leaders and managers and the CEO in the chain. I always have to laugh about that, right? We're stuffing up everybody's email box uh, by hitting that reply to all. So overprocessing, we're just looking for, is that task or that activity really required, and does it really add value to that customer? Waste of conveyance, this is moving things between steps, and we'll look at some improvements to flow. Are we moving things all over the place? And we used to call this staple yourself to an order. And sometimes we would find that a simple order of going out into the warehouse, finding something, putting a couple things together, putting it in the box, and shipping it to the customer. The poor part traveled several miles, getting from one place to the other. So, do we have things set up where the movement between steps is at a minimum? And or did we purposely put in movements that don't really need to be there? So extra steps in the process. So they kind of go together with the waste of motion we talked before, but this one's usually reserved for moving things between steps. All right. So waiting is usually a fairly obvious waste, although usually it's not the cause. There's usually some other upstream cause that causes waiting. But waiting is any non-productive time where we're going to be idle, a machine is going to be idle, a person is going to be idle due to lack of material or the equipment itself being available. So, certain downtimes, the equipment breaks, we've got to call in maintenance, they've got to fix it, maybe they have to order a part, and during that time period, we're not able to use the machine or do the steps that require that machine to be used. One of the ones that when I worked for a printing company, just the way that they did things very serially, when a production job ended, it was about a 4 to 6 hour uh, job to print the next magazine or newspaper. So they printed it on copper with a stylus. Then they had to change out the rollers, and then they had to rethread the paper through the machine. And so we just asked the simple question: can any of that work be done ahead of time, so we know what the next job is going to be? Can we get the rollers ready? Can we have everything printed? So the only thing we have to do is swap out the rollers. And sure enough, we cut a 6 to 8 hour changeover down to about a 1 hour changeover from printing job to printing job. So they just kind of built the wait state into the process, not on purpose, but just that's the way that they had always done it. All right, so now we're going to ask you to give it a try. So on the slide, we've got your 7 elements of waste. So we'd like you to stop the video and think about where have you seen examples of these wastes, either in your process or another process that you've observed, and try to come up with 1 or 2 for each one of the elements. The real test is going to be to go do it on your process as you work your particular project. But take a few minutes and see if you can come up with some examples of each one of these wastes. So hopefully you came up with some good examples for some of the 7 elements of waste. And now we're going to look at a system that goes kind of hand in hand with the 7 elements of waste to make it more obvious that one of the wastes is present, and that's called 5S or 5S workplace organization. All right. So, what are the 5S's? And we've got them listed for you here. Sort of the Japanese equivalent, even the little Japanese way to spell the word. But it is a process designed to organize your workplace. So sometimes we call it just workplace organization. Keep it neat and clean to standardize condition, and having the discipline to keep it that way. So it really works nicely together with the again the 7 elements of waste. So we have Siri, put things in order. Seitan, right, arrange things for use. Seiso, or clean. Seiketsu, or purity. And Shitsuke, or commitment to the other 4S's. So let's take a look at right, each one and some examples of each. All right, so step 1, Siri or sort, and I apologize if I've really messed up the Japanese pronunciation, but we use the 5S English version. We're going to sort. So basically, we go to the work area and we start to dissect it. So we look for, hey, what do we really need to perform the operation? And then what stuff is laying around here that we don't really need that's just kind of gumming up the works? And typically we use what we call a little red tag exercise. You can use sticky notes, but there's actually sell little red tags that you can place on things. And so it's kind of fun. We go out there and we start to tape these red tags or tie these red tags onto the unneeded items. All right. So just to make sure that we don't overdo it, typically we move the red tagged items to a little holding area for some short period of time. Right. This must be created. So whether we take over a conference room or we take over part of the incoming or outgoing material space, we're just going to keep it there just in case we need it. We need to bring it back into the area. And then, some things we can dispose of, but eventually every tagged item we're going to make a decision. Either we're going to repurpose it for something else, we're going to throw it away, or we might scrap it and get some residual value from it. So this is a lot of fun. We're going to go out and really attack the workspace and just look for things that we actually need to perform the work at that step, and we're going to get rid of everything else that's not needed. So now we've gotten rid of all of the unnecessary items. So now everything that's left at the workstation we say we need. And so the second step is Seitan, or store and straighten. And I like to call this step a place for everything and everything in its place. So if we need it there at the workstation, let's find a good place for it. So we're going to determine the location and also determine how much should we have at the station. And we're going to make it very obvious. So we sometimes we tape the areas where things belong. We can use some type of borders or boundaries. We can paint lines on the floor. I really like the shadow boards where, if you think about it as a dead man outline, If we need a screwdriver, it's very obvious this is the screwdriver and that's where it belongs. If we need a crescent wrench, right, that's the space where the crescent wrench goes, and it's either there or it's not there, right? And if it's not there, it should be used, on the station. And then it also becomes very obvious that if it goes missing, that we need to, right, replace it and keep the station whole. Right, so we're going to document that whole layout. Right, where does equipment go? Right, think ergonomics. Where's the right place? Where are the most used things? Maybe we move out a little bit for the lesser used things. Safety in mind, right? If we have things that are things like robots and things that are moving, right? We have keep out areas and lockouts so that right we can keep everybody safe. And then right labeling, right any supplies that we use. Right, I've got my workbench and I've got everything all laid out in a nice and orderly fashion. At the next step, shine it up, right? Make it nice and clean. So it really does literally mean, hey, let's go scrub everything and make sure that it's ready for action. So let's get rid of all the dirt, grime, and the dust. I can tell you I've been to quite a few manufacturing plants where there are pallets just laying in the floor. Some of the cooling fluid for the cutting blades is just kind of running down. So you can't really tell if there's a problem, there's not a problem, there's just stuff everywhere. So the idea of shine is to right reinforce the last step, which is right every place for everything in its place. If the workplace isn't clean, and we can't tell whether or not right it's organized. All right, so this one starts off into the next phase, which is some discipline too, is right, we want to actually make a plan for how we're going to keep the station that way. So what are the, as crazy as it sounds, what are the cleaning materials that I need? Where will they be stored? We actually put together a little schedule that right on these days, these individuals are going to right do these particular tasks to keep things nice and shiny. So right, literally, we're gonna right clean everything up, make it look good, and again, it reinforces both the upstream and the downstream steps in the 5S. Right. The next step is to standardize. So across right your production area, you want to use the same visual cues. So if I paint red lines on the floor, and that means keep out, that should be the case right throughout the whole building. So the things I use to organize and to give myself cues that we are either in control or out of control, right, I want to be the same. And then for the workplace that you're making better, right, whatever we need to document in terms of, hey, take a picture, right? This is what it should look like, right, if we've done our proper restoring and straightening. Make it as visual as possible. We'll talk more about that. And then what does cleaning and shine, right, actually mean? So, right, we'll talk about the control phase for DMAIC. This is sort of the right control phase for 5S, that we have a standard way to do it, and we're doing it consistently from workstation to workstation, production line to production line. Right. So the last step in the 5S's is sort of an audit function. Let's make sure we're doing the four steps. You can make this a lot of fun or a competition. One group can audit another group. You can determine what the frequency should be. But basically, right, are we performing to the standards? We talked about right, a place for everything and everything in its place. If I go and inspect a workstation, right, am I conforming to that? And then the cleaning part. So do I see a cleaning schedule? Right, is it being executed? Right, where we mark off that we've completed it for that day or that week? So you can make it kind of fun. Look at right who gets the best audit scores from one place to the next. So little exercise for you, so you can pause the recording here in a second. How might you apply 5S to well, hopefully to your workstation. But think about, right, I think about this in my garage. Whenever I go out there, I can't find the right screwdriver, right, the crescent wrench I need is gone. Where are the bits for my drill? So I'm sure many of you feel the same pain, right? If you're a baker or a good cook, right, all your pots and pans and your spices and everything ready to roll. Sometimes doing 5S on areas that your spouse may also occupy are you got to be careful. I did it with our drug cabinet, right, based on right what do we really need and what do we not need. So I went through and I looked for the things that we took on a daily basis, and I put those down on the shelf you could see, and I put them in order. And then all the things that we just accumulated over time, right, I put them in a bag and right put them on the top shelf, way out of reach. And then when my spouse got home, she told me that she didn't really like that, and she wanted me to put it back the way that it was. And then I put it back the way that it was, and then she said, that really was a good idea. Let's do that 5S thing and right, make sure that we have the medications that we need daily right there front and center. So take a few minutes, stop the recording, think about how you would approach the first three steps of right, sort, straighten, and shine in one of these three scenarios. So now we have made you armed and dangerous with the tools of the 7 elements of waste and the 5 steps and 5S process. All right, and right, that supports the body of knowledge elements. We talked a little bit about what's the philosophy of lean, right? How did it come to us through the Toyota production system, right, into now the 21st century? How the tools for Lean and Six Sigma work together, and then specifically the tools of how do we identify and segregate waste, and that 5S process itself.